Okay, so I'm going to share our experiences rolling out the Open Cities Lucia initiative last year. And basically, it's a discussion on a topic I'm not an expert on. How do you move to building a sustainable OpenStreetMap community in a country after the project? So under that project, I was the field geodata collection and community risk mapping specialist, long title, basically one of the GIS guys on the team. This is the outline of my presentation, what I plan to present to you. A little background on OSM in St. Lucia, show you who the team was, what we did, how it turned out, what we learned, and what we plan on doing next. And hopefully someone will tell me the answer as to how do I sustain this after Open Cities. I know there are a lot of geographers in the room. Has anyone been to St. Lucia before? Anyone in the room has been to St. Lucia? Ah, cool, yeah, okay, these guys. And most people know where St. Lucia is. St. Lucia is located in the Eastern Caribbean. To the north is Martinique, and to the south is St. Vincent and the Grenadines. St. Vincent recently had a volcanic eruption about 2 years ago. Many of you may have remembered that. We're primarily tourism-based economy. We transitioned first from sugarcane to bananas, and then now primarily we're dependent on tourism. Of course, we're a volcanic island, steep topography, close to convergent plate boundary, so prone to seismic hazards. And what happens most frequently in St. Lucia in terms of hazards would be landslides and floods. And floods can occur sometimes from maybe 1 or 2 hours of intense rainfall, can cause a significant disaster and significant damage to infrastructure. So these are some photos of some fairly recent events. The first one is Hurricane Thomas, that was 2010. The middle one is actually last year in November. There was about 2 hours of rainfall, and we got some really bad flooding in just one part of the island. And then in 2013, it was the Christmas Eve drop. So this was an unnamed storm outside of the hurricane season that basically shut down the entire island, washed out bridges, rendered many people homeless, island-wide power outages, and all of that occurred. So this is sort of the setting. So before I go into this, I would say before the Open Cities initiative, we did have a Map St. Lucia campaign in 2016. Someone in the room was integral in doing a lot of the capacity building for that training, for that initiative. We did lots of mapping over a very short period of time, huge mapathon. And after 2016, there was no activity on OSM in St. Lucia. So we're fast forwarding to 2022. HOT implemented the Open Cities initiative in Latin America and the Caribbean, starting with St. Lucia. It was implemented through HOT and GFDRR. Funding from the Swiss Re Foundation made it happen. And the focus was on capturing building footprints, roads, footpaths in vulnerable communities. And there are other Open Cities projects which are taking place ongoing in other parts of Latin America and the Caribbean right now. This is the team. Louise was our project manager. I did an excellent job. Myself, of course, Stephen, we got on board, who was integral in really getting us organized and doing a lot of training in St. Lucia. And we had Shem, who did some software development for us, which I'll talk about a little later. And this was the approach from the Open Cities methodology. First, assess what's going on the ground. What is the state of data? Who are the users? Who are the GIS experts? Do some mapping to fill in the gaps where it's required. Do some design of a potential solution that leverages OSM and actually develop it and hand it over to the stakeholders. So we had to first engage our stakeholders in the community. There was the Red Cross and the YEAC, who were integral in making things happen in terms of getting a lot of mapping done. These were two of the main groups that we were able to leverage. We did get some good support from several government agencies, including the Disaster Office, the Planning Department, the Stats Office also was also very interested in what we would do in terms of doing additional mapping in St. Lucia and how it would help them with their work. These are some photos from some of the training activities and mapping activities that we undertook in St. Lucia, both field mapping and remote mapping. In terms of the design phase, we actually developed a disaster vulnerability and damage assessment tool, which leverages OpenStreetMap, basically uses the features from OpenStreetMap and downloads them and allows persons to capture damage and impact data and attach them to features in OSM, such as buildings and roads after a disaster, or assign like a vulnerability scoring or comments to an actual feature on OSM, which should allow planning and decision-making ahead of time. So what did we achieve? Sounds like small numbers, but it's a small country. We did get 135 mappers trained. We got 11,000 building footprints mapped. Overall, over 150,000 changes, OSM. We did a month-long internship with 4 validators who did an excellent job. And we got 2 MOUs in place with local organizations that I mentioned before, Red Cross and YEAC, so that there is some level of sustainability or continuity between HOT and these local agencies after the project. What were the challenges when we started off? The government of St. Lucia was pretty strict on COVID-19 protocols, so we had to do lots of things virtually that would have worked out a lot better in person. So for the first 6 months, we were doing a lot of virtual stuff or having very small gatherings, socially distanced gatherings with very few persons in large rooms for the first few months. So that sort of slowed us down. We learned, of course, that establishing the partnerships is key. And it's not just about just mapping, but also getting persons interested and getting existing organizations interested. And we also realized that there was a high level of interest from the youth in OSM when we introduced it to persons at the community college. We had an exhibition for GIS or Geography Week last year, and we got some of the high school students to interact with OSM, and there was a high level of interest. And we think that that's where a lot of the future of OSM is going to be, especially in St. Lucia. So what do we want to do next? We do want to actually register a local chapter. We want to do some more engagement with students at high school and the community college level. We're trying to seek partnership from the local private sector. And one of the things we need to do for that is to actually show that we're continuing to map features and collect data that's of use to them. One of the companies we're looking at is the electricity company, who's willing to support us as we continue to map communities. That also obviously helps their work. Strengthening partnerships with international partners, looking at opportunities. And this is one of the reasons I'm here, to see what organizations and groups are willing to help and support us in really moving forward. And what's not here also is really trying to leverage the original space that we're in. It's a small country, but there are other neighboring countries in the OECS region, and sort of scaling up and sort of building on their strengths and their resources and building it into something bigger than just a St. Lucia initiative, I think will also make it sustainable. And most importantly, we know that we have to keep mapping, because that's the essence of it. And sometimes the organizing and fundraising and so on can sometimes distract, but we must keep mapping. So that's my presentation. You can find us on social media through the Linktree. You can email us. And I also linked to the Dominica initiative that's currently ongoing. So looking forward to any questions or suggestions from you guys. Thank you.